Welcome to New Hope Lutheran Church and Pastor Charlie's Toolbox. You know, something that always happens this time of year is that I wind up putting snow tires on the vehicle. It's not a very complicated job. It's just kind of time consuming when you want to do it right. I mean, first of all, you have to jack up the car one corner at a time, and then using a jack, something like this, you roll it. It's on wheels. You roll it underneath the vehicle to a spot where it can get a good grip, and then you just jack it up. Let it go upwards. And then, just to be safe, in case the jack fails, I like to use one of these, a jack stand. So you put it underneath, you lift it as high as you need it to go, and when you're done, you just let it down like that. But that's a safety feature. Once you're done that, you take off the nuts. The nuts look something like this. They're big, but not really big, and you take them off using well, I usually start with a wrench like this, because they're on pretty tight. So you put this end on here, and then you turn and turn until they loosen off. And then, just to speed things up, I like to use my electric wrench. It's got forward and reverse right here on the trigger. So once that's finished, I can pull the tire off, and I usually take a quick peek inside the wheel well there, just to make sure everything looks okay, and then I like to check the air pressure of the tire I'm putting on, just to make sure it's got enough air in it and isn't flat. For that, this is the pressure gauge I like to use. You just hook it up and clip it onto your air valve, and pull the trigger, and this will tell you how much air is in the tire. I like it. So once I've got that done, I put the snow tire on, and then I take my nuts and I put them back on with this. And then, just to make sure that the nuts are on the tire, not too tight, but not too loose either, I use what's called a torque wrench. And this wrench, you set it up, you turn the handle to set it up, and when you get to the tightness you want it to be, it clicks. I'll give a demonstration. That one's on good. And when that's done, I can let down the jack. There's a little valve at the back you let loose, and down it goes. And for all that gets me out one tire finished, and then it's time to go to the next one. So it can be a lot of work. And you might wonder just why I would put myself through such a hassle, but the thing is, the weather is changing. And if we get snow, as we could any day now, that does happen up here in the North Country, I want to be ready. You see, summer tires are smooth and kind of hard, which is great for driving on roads during warmer weather. But when things start getting snowy and slippery, you really want something that's going to give you some traction. Let me show you. Here we go. Here I've got the summer tire I took off the van here, and here's some new snow tires. You see the difference in the treads? These are relatively smooth, but these are more aggressive. They can grab and bite in snow. Well, you I can't really show you very well, but you can feel is that the rubber, while it gives some on the summer tires, it's a lot softer on the winter tires. So they bend a little bit, and especially when it gets cold outside, because hard rubber in the cold just gets harder, and this, it gets a little harder too, but it gives you some grip. It's kind of like when they play hockey. They use a hard rubber puck, and they use that because it slides all over the place. But if you just use a soft rubber puck, well, it doesn't go very far because it grips the ice better. So the reason I bring all this up is because the last Sunday in October is celebrated as Reformation Sunday in the Lutheran Church. And on that day we celebrate the work of Martin Luther. And Martin Luther was someone who lived 500 years ago, but he was part of making major changes to the way the church thought about how God works. An easy way to explain it might be to say that the church had been driving on summer tires well into the winter, and the way they were driving it, well, it just didn't make sense anymore. Something needed to be changed, just like we changed summer for winter tires. It needs to be changed, or you could say reformed. You see, the wider church back then heavily suggested that we can all work towards or buy our way even into heaven. You may not think that matters, but Martin Luther, who was a scholar, he found out that the Bible actually disagreed with that kind of thinking. Now, one such place that you find it is in our lesson today, Romans 3, where it pretty plainly tells us that because every one of us sins, we don't have a chance of getting into heaven by our own means. We're kind of like summer tires on black ice going down a steep winding hill. At some point, we're going to slide off the road. Now, that doesn't mean there isn't any hope for us. In fact, knowing that we have no hope on our own, that should actually drive us to the one thing that can save us, which is to come to depend on God's forgiving love, or God's grace, as it's quite often called. And this has all been made possible through the sacrifice of Jesus, who, in very plain language, he paid for our sins, making entry into heaven a gift for us, freely given for all believers, a gift. Well, needless to say, this new thinking that Martin Luther and others came out with, it caused quite a ruckus in the church, but very slowly things changed. And so, like a new set of snow tires, the church, it gained traction. It gained new understanding. And best of all, it gained a new perspective on just how much God actually does love and care about us. That's something to celebrate.